Hello, my name is Tara and my country is suffering from water pollution.
My name is Mira and my country is suffering from water pollution.
My name is Lola Ali. I am from the United States of America and I'm suffering from type 2 diabetes.
मेरा नाम साइमा अहमद है। मैं पाकिस्तान में ज़ियाबितस तौर फ़ज़ाई आलूदगी का शिकार हूँ।
Type 2 diabetes accounts for 90% to 95% of all diagnosed diabetes cases, while type 1 diabetes accounts for just 5 to 10%. As the American population has aged and gotten increasingly overweight or obese, the number of individuals diagnosed with diabetes has more than quadrupled in the previous 20 years. Diabetes is a long-term illness that affects the way your body converts food into energy. The majority of the food you consume is converted into sugar, also known as glucose, and released into your circulation. Your pancreas releases insulin when your blood sugar levels rise. Insulin is a key that allows blood sugar to enter cells and be used as energy. If you have diabetes, your body either does not produce enough insulin or does not utilize it as effectively as it should. When there isn't enough insulin or when cells cease reacting to it, it's called insulin resistance.
Please tell us about your experience with this problem.
So when I was 15, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Throughout my childhood, I was given a variety of processed meals that had a severe influence on my health. I had a horrible diet that was marketed as healthy in the United States. Each lunch included Pop-Tarts and I craved a pint of Ben & Jerry's straight afterward. My diet was devoid of fruits and vegetables as well as protein. My family's budget prevented me from eating healthier since it was too expensive.
पतली लड़की थी। मेरी उम्र के हिसाब से मेरा वजन कम था, लेकिन जब मैं अमेरिका पहुंची तो मेरा वजन दिन ब दिन बढ़ता गया।
And I have type 2 diabetes, and it's just that simple. I felt horrible. I mean, I just was sick all the time, even to the point where I couldn't eat, you know. So I went to the doctor and I wasn't sleeping and, you know, constantly going to the bathroom. So I said, I need to know what's wrong with me. They kind of knew already before they even did the blood test or anything like that. And that's what they did. And about a week later, they called me and told me I had type 2 diabetes. It wasn't tough to hear because I just wanted whatever was wrong with me to feel better because I felt so horrible. I mean, I can't even tell you exponentially how much better I feel just getting it under control, how bad I felt.
We will now be interviewing Dr. Karim, a medical specialist and an expert in the human physique. Please tell us more about yourself.
Hey Sarah, and hello to everyone else. I'm Dr. Keba Karimi. I'm a resident physician at the University at Buffalo, training in anesthesiology. I'm just finishing up my intern year, which is my first year, and in 3 short weeks I'll officially be starting my anesthesia training. But today I'm here to talk about diabetes with you guys. So shoot away with your questions, Sarah.
Diabetes is an international disease that affects an estimated 382 million people. Diabetes has reached epidemic proportions and should be regarded as a severe public health concern. After 28 years, this crisis still occurs. What are your thoughts on this as a medical professional?
Yeah, society plays a huge role in this diabetes epidemic and preventing it from getting any worse. What we call primary prevention, which really just comes down to healthy lifestyle choices. It's all about eating, healthy, balanced meals where you're not just have high carbs in your meals, not just eating junk food, Fast food, I know, is quick and cheap, and it's such a busy society. It's one of those easy go-tos, but it's important to try to make your own meals, try to really think about what you're eating. And once you have diabetes, you have it for life, and it has a strong genetic component, so it makes your kids at high risk for having diabetes. And then that, if when you have diabetes as a kid, you have a lifelong risk of cardiovascular disease, increases your risk for life. So we as a society have to try to prevent it from happening in the first place, and not just treating diabetes and just treating sugar, making sure it's well controlled. Because even like I mentioned before, even if you control your sugars perfectly, you're always at risk for increased cardiovascular morbidity and mortality.
Diabetes make it harder to control your blood pressure and cholesterol levels. This can lead to heart attack, stroke, and other problems. It can become harder for blood to flow to the legs and feet, leading to amputations. Nerves in the body can become damaged, causing pain, burning, tingling, and loss of feeling. But there are ways to resolve the problem.
हमें ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा वॉक और वर्जिश करनी चाहिए. इस वजह से हम ज़्यादा किस तरह से बीमारी से बच सकते हैं.
Do you think there's any resolution to this problem?
If the government stopped feeding the country chemicals in order to gain profit, there would be a tremendous decrease in the growth of diabetes. Also, reducing overall carb intake, exercising regularly, drinking enough water, and maintaining a healthy weight can all help avoid diabetes.
Water pollution occurs when pollutants are released into bodies of water, making them unsuitable for human consumption and disrupting aquatic ecosystems. Toxic waste, petroleum, and disease-causing bacteria are just a few examples of these pollutants that may pollute water. It is considered polluted water once the water has had its composition altered to the point that it is no longer usable. Polluted water causes diseases such as cholera, dysentery, typhoid, which eventually kills over 500,000 people each year. According to the UN system, about 297,000 children under the age of 5 die each year as a result of illnesses caused by poor sanitation, hygiene, or contaminated drinking water. I'm interviewing Professor Walter at Cornell University, also a bio and environmental engineer. Please take a moment to introduce yourself.
My name is Todd Walter. I'm a professor at Cornell University. I study water resources engineering and hydrology.
So as an expert on water pollution, what is your general opinion on the topic of water pollution as a whole?
I think this is one of the most serious problems, and probably after climate change, water pollution is probably our next most critical problem facing the planet.
Water contamination, as we mentioned before, has been a significant detriment to society and the ecosystem for thousands of years. And despite success stories, we continue to see awful things happen as a result of water pollution. What do you think is the argument behind this?
There's a couple issues here, Sarah. One is we let me see if I can find a good way to express this. One is that we keep inventing new things that are supposed to make our lives easier or make our lives better, but then there's always a downside to that. Well, not always, but there's often a downside to them as well, and they have a negative consequence. And so, just as one tiny little example, back in the, oh my goodness, I didn't even know, 1940s, 50s, 60s. People started making pans that don't have that things don't stick to, right? And it turned out that there was a byproduct, was PFAO. I forget what the polyfluorinated something. You can look up what that stands for. That was part of that process, and that ends up being carcinogenic, and it was leaked out of these factories into our water supplies, and made a lot of people really sick. So. A case where we tried to do something that was going to be good for society, and it had a negative consequence. We can look at the same thing with herbicides and pesticides for agriculture. Almost all of them are really good for agriculture, but have a negative consequence that if they get into our water supplies, they're bad for us. So I would say that So there's are you familiar with the book Alice in Wonderland?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so the Red Queen, she says a statement inside in the book where she says, welcome to Wonderland. This is a place where we all run as fast as we can just to basically make no progress. And I think that's what society does too. We try and keep moving as fast as we can to come up with better and better ways for society to happen. But we always have these like negative consequences that we keep running away from. So I think we're kind of in a Red Queen type of a world. But that's I think a big problem. I think we want
mainly the central region of Cape Coast, and currently illicit mining and other activities have contaminated 60% of Ghana's water.
13-year-old Aisha spends about 8 hours fetching water every day in Ethiopia, where she lives. In fact, 2.1 billion people have no safe drinking water and 4.5 billion have no access to adequate sanitation. In some regions, rivers and lakes are so polluted that they are catching fire easily. Many other bodies of water, however, are polluting less dramatically but just as dangerously, with a toxic cocktail of bacteria, sewage, chemicals, and plastics, sucking oxygen out of water supplies, and in fact poisoning them. Not only that, there are multiple other individuals who have seen or experienced this type of situation. Let us introduce you to Mira.
My relatives in Lebanon are finding it extremely difficult to obtain safe drinking water. I recall wandering about Lebanon towards the poorer areas and seeing how filthy and polluted the water was. Water pollution is not limited to Lebanon. It also affects Palestine, Qatar, Iran, Libya, Yemen, Jordan, and a number of other nations.
Human activity and its repercussions are the most prevalent causes of water pollution, such as global warming, when the CO2 emissions produce rising global temperatures, which heat the water and reduce its oxygen concentration, as well as deforestation. The felling woods can deplete water supplies and produce organic waste, which can serve as a breeding ground for hazardous bacteria. Garbage and fecal water dumping. According to the UN, more than 80% of the world's sewage ends up in oceans and rivers untreated.
From my personal experience, I find this disgusting. Every country has its own problems, mostly an economic crisis, and the lives of helpless people aren't as important to anyone anymore due to other crises around the world. Without clean water around the world, millions of humans will suffer and die. We need to act.
Water pollution has reached frightening levels in recent years despite the considerable efforts to treat and clean up wastewater. In fact, humans add 1.2 trillion gallons of untreated wastewater into water supply each year. In addition, 14 billion pounds of plastics are dumped into the ocean each year. If we continue polluting our planet with the same rhythm, 47% of people on Earth will struggle to find drinking water by 2050. Water pollution effects on human health and environment present serious threats on the future of humanity in our planet.
Do you think there is a resolution for your problem?
And controlled using a number of methods, including sand filtration and electrocoagulation, as well as reverse osmosis and advanced oxidation. Also, Ghana and other nations need to help these helpless people. Donation is key. Act fast or people will suffer.
Other wastewater treatment facilities can remove virtually all contaminants in wastewater using a chemical, physical, or biological method. This is a very successful approach.
Diabetes and water pollution are two main problems in the world right now. Millions of people are being impacted and we humans need to help them. One way to help out is donating. Not only that, you can teach others the effects of the problems and help prevent further damage.
Your name's on TV!